It all started with a prayer. Anna, who had waited years for a baby, prayed with every ounce of her strength to God. She promised him that if he gave her a son, she would dedicate him to God for the rest of his life. And God heard her prayer. A few months later, Hannah gave birth to a baby boy and named him Samuel, which means asked for or obtained from God. Now at this point in Samuel's life, he was still young and didn't yet understand what God wanted from him. But the night before, as Samuel slept in the temple, he heard someone calling his name. Samuel, Samuel. While Samuel was still young when God called him, he was not too young to be called. Many people think that God only calls people who are older and more experienced, but this isn't always true. Instead, God raised up judges to deliver the people from their enemies. However, the people often turned away from God and worshipped other gods. When they needed help, they cried out to God. They kept falling into the same patterns of sin and destruction. And he knew that God wanted to change their hearts and set them on a new path. Samuel prayed and asked God if he had chosen a king to replace him. But God said no. So Samuel knew that this was a chance for the people to choose the kind of king they wanted. They could choose a king who was strong and powerful, or they could choose a king who was kind and compassionate. He didn't want anyone else to be more popular than him, so he began to persecute Samuel and his family. They had a special bond and loved each other very much. But unfortunately, Saul's jealousy continued to grow, and he tried many times to kill David. Because of this, David had to escape and hide in the wilderness. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with others so they can also learn about God's incredible work in our world. And don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring content. May God bless you and keep you until next time. He lived in caves and used his skills as a shepherd and a warrior to protect himself and his friends. Because of this, Samuel stopped praying for Saul and instead prayed for another leader. And God told Samuel to go to Bethlehem and find a young man named David. God said that David would become both a great king and a great prophet. So Samuel went to Bethlehem and found David, who was just a young boy tending sheep. Samuel anointed David as the future king of Israel. And this fulfilled the prophecy that God had spoken through Samuel when he said, "One of your descendants will be a great king." But the people didn't realize this. They just wanted a king like the other nations. They wanted someone who could lead them into battle and help them win wars. He had frequent mood swings and was often violent and unpredictable. Hannah's faith and determination to have a child led her to dedicate her son to God. Samuel's faithfulness and obedience to God made him the first prophet of Israel, and the stories of these great leaders continue to inspire us today. They teach us that no matter who we are or where we come from, we can have a special relationship with God if we trust in Him and follow His guidance. This was because an evil spirit from God had taken control of him. As David continued to grow in wisdom and strength, he gained followers who respected and admired him. Eventually, David became the king of Israel and led the people to great victories. He established Jerusalem as the capital city and made it a center of worship for God. David's reign was a golden age for Israel. People from all over the world came to Jerusalem to learn about God and to worship Him. They didn't understand that God was the one who truly had power over their lives. They couldn't see that God was the one who had delivered them from their oppressors in the past. And they didn't realize that God would continue to guide and protect them in the future. So one day, God spoke to Samuel and told him that it was time for Israel to have a king. He reminded them that even though they would have a human king, God was still the ultimate authority over their lives. Samuel explained that God would judge them if they turned away from Him and followed other gods. But the people didn't listen. They insisted on having a king. So Samuel prayed and asked God to show him a king. God showed him Saul, the son of Kish, a man from the tribe of Benjamin. Then God raised up a deliverer or judge to rescue them. Then Samuel took the oil, poured it on Saul's head, and the Spirit of God came powerfully upon him. After Saul became king, he and Samuel led the people of Israel in a great victory over their enemies. The people celebrated and praised God for giving them such a powerful king. One of these judges was an amazing woman named Deborah, who led Israel for 40 years. She delivered the Israelites from their oppressors, the Canaanites, and the people celebrated her victory with a song. They praised her bravery and strength, and they thanked God for giving them such a powerful leader. Sometimes God calls people who are very young because age doesn't limit God's purpose. In fact, Throughout the Bible, many young people have done great things for God. For example, David was just a young boy tending sheep when God chose him to defeat Goliath. So he went to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you called me." So Samuel grew up under the guidance of Eli, who helped him learn how to serve God. But unfortunately, Eli's sons were wicked and arrogant, and they refused to listen to God or Samuel. The people of Israel were so grateful for his leadership that they made him a golden calf and put it in the temple at Shiloh. But as time went on, the Israelites once again forgot about God and turned to idols. And when they needed help, they cried out to God. And that's when God raised up another judge, Samson. Because of this, God was angry, and he said that he would punish Eli's family. So then Eli died, and Samuel became the leader of Israel's worship at the tabernacle. He continued to live there and faithfully served God, judging and blessing the people. Eli replied, "I did not call. You go back and lie down." Samuel did so. The Lord was calling again. So he went back to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you called me." But again, Eli replied, "I did not call. Go back and lie down." Samuel went back to bed, and so her prayer had been answered. She took her son to the tabernacle, where God's presence resided, and placed him in the care of Eli the high priest. Samuel went to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you called me." At this point, Eli realized that it wasn't him that was calling Samuel, but God. So he told Samuel, "Go and stand before the Lord." When Samuel stood before the Lord, God spoke to him and said, "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening." Samuel said this simple sentence that we read in 1 Samuel chapter 3, verse 21. It means that Samuel was ready to listen to whatever God wanted to say and do whatever God asked of him. This marked the beginning of Samuel's official service as a prophet of God. Then she returned home. Now, while Samuel was living with Eli, he learned the responsibilities of serving God. Eli taught him everything about the law of Moses. Every day, Samuel assisted Eli and his sons in performing their tasks. But as time passed, Eli's sons began to sin against God. They did not honor God in their service, and they dishonored God's offerings. Because of this, God spoke against Eli's household and announced that judgment would fall upon them. Despite this, Samuel continued to grow, and his relationship with God grew stronger. Then one night, Samuel was in the tabernacle in Shiloh, where God first called him. And for the third time, the Lord called Samuel, "Samuel." As a young boy, Samuel continued to live with Eli until the high priest died. Okay, so now let's get back to our story. During this time, the Israelites did not have a king to lead them. Another judge was Gideon, who rescued Israel from the oppression of the Midianites. So meanwhile, as Samuel was serving God and helping the Israelites, he began to see that they still struggled with trusting and obeying God. The Israelites were afraid to hear this, so they came to Samuel and begged him to pray for them. So Samuel told the people that God had given them their request, and he warned them to remember God as their true king. When Samuel found Saul, he was with a donkey and his servant. And God told Samuel, "This is the man. Anoint him as king." But as time passed, Saul became jealous and afraid of Samuel. After this, David became friends with Saul's son, Jonathan. Meanwhile, Saul became more and more unstable. So this is how it all started, with a prayer. So thank you for watching this video and learning about the amazing stories of faith and leadership.